The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
Hey, Tim Kennedy here, and I am your host of The Senior Show, and we are two wild and aging guys. So my counterpart, Neil Himmelstein, the owner of the Main Street Code for Financial Success, decided to take a week off because that guy's like half a workaholic, so he will not be joining us today. But if you have any insurance questions, any insurance needs, feel free to reach out to Neil Himmelstein. He's the owner of the Main Street Code for Financial Success, and you can reach him at 631-647-4694. 631-647-4694. And Neil, have a great week. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the family. And take some time off. Well-deserved time off. So, hey, here we are. It's July 4th weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed their July 4th, 250 years. Happy birthday, America. God bless us. And I had a great weekend. Had a lot of fun. Man, it was hot, but it brought me back to yesteryear. 50 years ago, 1976, I was about 11 years old, and my neighbors had a July 4th party. We thought, holy cow, 200 years was a lot. And I remember they opened up the bedroom window and we were allowed to crawl out onto the roof, and they gave us pillows and blankets, and we watched the 4th of July fireworks on the roof of this house. I'm not too sure parents would do that today, but back then they did, and it's a vivid memory in my mind that I still cherish today with all the neighborhood kids and my parents and all the neighbors. It was a great time. It was a great time in America. 1976. And here we are 50 years later. Happy birthday. 250 years. God bless us and God bless America. So with that being said, I this past week I had the time to go to a class to discuss Social Security planning. When is the best time to take out Social Security? Do we wait? Do we delay? How do we coordinate that with a spouse? Right? Because there's so many different moving parts with Social Security. And for the most part, for most of us out there, it will be our largest retirement asset, Social Security. And it wasn't meant to incorporate all of our retirement. It was really just a supplement. It was part of supplemental income based on everything else you had as part of your retirement income plan. And on this show, the Senior Show, we're really trying to educate our listeners on different ways that you can protect and preserve yourself at any stage of life. Whether you're newlyweds. Talk about newlyweds. Last weekend, the weekend prior, my daughter got married. We got married over at the flower fields in St. James. Well, let me tell you something. They put on some show. The venue, the atrium, the venue itself, the food, the service, the servicers. Man, every time I turned around, they're like, Mr. Kennedy, can I help you? Mr. Kennedy, what do you need? And the needs for my daughter and my son-in-law and my wife and just the guests themselves, phenomenal venue. If anybody out there is listening, is getting married, getting engaged, knows somebody that just got engaged, hey, check out Flower Fields in St. James. You won't be disappointed. That place was crazy. It was awesome. We had a great time. They also had this cottage off to the side where the bridesmaids and the bride spent most of the day getting ready, hair and makeup. They all had steamers to come in and do their dresses. They had people there to steam their dresses. They were just, white glove the whole day from 8 o'clock in the morning till, gee whiz, I think we got out of there well after 1 o'clock at night. And they could not have been more helpful, more supportive. Highly recommend Flower Fields over there in St. James. But let's get back to the Social Security thing, right? So most people don't really analyze it and tell the truth. They don't know how. And we underestimate the value of Social Security and the benefit. So that's why I went to this workshop to try and figure out how I can help my clients more when we're discussing the idea of Social Security and when to take it out and how to take it out and why to take it out, right? Because the reason is you may not think it's a lot of money, but after 10, 20, 30 years, that money accumulates. So I remember sitting in this class and they asked, who thinks their benefits will represent $250,000 or more over their lifetime? A couple of hands were raised. Who thinks it will be more like $1 million? Less hands. And who, in fact, got some chuckles about over 2 million? Well, the truth of the matter is, 2 million scenario is likely for successful and healthy married couples. Yeah, because it's over time and it's cumulative, right? So we need to pay attention to how to structure Social Security and when to take it out. Most of us heard the news that Social Security fund is in trouble and changes are needed. However, we believe we'll see legislation to fix this. Neither political party, believe me, neither political party wants to be the one who fails to shore up this beacon of American retirement security. There are several options available to lawmakers if they get their acts together. One way to build up this fund is to increase taxable wages, right? Taxable wage base. A second way is to increase age of full retirement. And lastly, the benefit may be means tested, like Medicare, meaning the highest net promised benefit will think it'll be fine, right? So that's the way they're looking at Social Security these days. But the takeaway here is one of these or some combination will shore up the trust fund. We believe, and Social Security experts who now who know more about this also believe that although it may look different in the future, Social Security will be there for anyone that will need it in the future, right? So it's important that we pay attention to it. And it's important that we sit down with somebody that knows what they're talking about, because the truth of the matter is, calling Social Security, they may not know what you're talking about. And the truth of the matter is, they're not allowed to give advice. So they're the wrong people to talk to when you're trying to figure out how to structure your Social Security. My recommendation would be to go to Google or ChatGPT or call me and Neil. Hey, give us a call, and we'll direct you in the right direction. But how about calling an RSSA advisor, a Registered Social Security Advisor? And they will sit down with both you and your spouse, or you by yourself, and they'll go through the game plan of what might necessarily be the best scenario for you and your spouse, and the best way to optimize Social Security and what different situations may arise. There was a situation they were talking about where the husband decided to take out Social Security at 62, at the youngest age. At the very beginning that he could qualify for Social Security, he took it at 62, less than at his retirement age. And what transpired was he passed away, maybe 2 or 3 years later. And now his wife was left because, she got now the spousal portion of Social Security, lost her Social Security, right? But it was much less than what she had. And the truth of the matter is, if he had just waited maybe another year or two, it would have been another 30% higher. And now this woman is well into her 80s. We're talking about several hundred thousands of dollars that she would have had available to her if he had just waited a little bit. And that's really the education you would get if you spoke to a registered Social Security advisor. So it's really important to figure out how you want to optimize Social Security and talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about, right? I always talk about my Uncle Billy, right? Because there's always an uncle, right? Especially this past weekend, July 4th weekend. How many barbecues did you go to? How many friends and family did you hang out with by the pool and by the barbecue? And how many of them just gave their unfiltered advice on anything and everything? I love when people bring up reverse mortgages, for example, right? That's what I do for a living. I'm a certified reverse mortgage professional. And if I hear it once, I've heard it a million times. Oh yeah, a reverse mortgage, we give you money, and then when you die, we keep the house. Well, that's the furthest from the truth, right? The truth of the matter is, with a reverse mortgage, you maintain home ownership. It's your home. It just gives you the ability to access the equity in your home if and when you want to use it. If you don't use it, great. No harm, no foul, right? It goes back into the equity of your home. But if sometime in the future, if you need those funds for longevity, liquidity, lifestyle, legacy, or long-term care, you can access those reverse mortgage funds from the equity in your home. But that's the whole idea. That's why you need to get more information about when you plan on filing for Social Security and the optimal time to do that. And possibly even maybe look at a reverse mortgage or call Neil about any type of insurance question. So, hey, my name is Tim Kennedy. I am your host of The Senior Show. We are on the radio every Monday at 5 p.m. So please join us 5 p.m. on Mondays and listen to The Senior Show, because after all, we are two wild and aging guys. And again, if you want to reach me, Tim Kennedy, your certified reverse mortgage professional, you can reach me at 516-729-6040. And if you want to meet Neil or speak with Neil from Main Street Planning Group, you can reach him at 631-647-4694. 631-647-4697. And I'll be right back. Tim Kennedy here, and I am your host of The Senior Show, and we are the two wild and aging guys, The Senior Show, with my co-host Neil Himmelstein and me, Tim Kennedy. I am your certified reverse mortgage professional. Neil is not here with us this week. As I said, he's on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. The guy puts a lot of hours in. He works very hard. And, his wife said, nope, you're done. You're spending the week at home with us, with the family. But if you want to reach out to Neil, he runs and owns the Main Street Planning Group, a full-service insurance brokerage firm. And you can reach him at 631-647-4694. So give him a call. Neil Himmelstein. He's also the co-host of, the Main Street Code for Financial Success. And that airs every Friday, 3 p.m., 3 to 3:30. So listen to Neil on Fridays at 3 p.m., the Main Street Code for Financial Success. If you have any questions or concerns, give him a call, 631-647-4694. And I am your reverse mortgage guy, certified reverse mortgage professional. There are probably, several thousands and thousands of mortgage loan originators out there, and I am one of maybe 200. I am one of 200 with the certification of certified reverse mortgage professional, and I got that designation from the National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association out of Washington, D.C. And I am not a professional or proponent of Social Security on what to do and how to do it. I am a licensed mortgage loan originator, and I can answer your questions and help you if you have any questions dispelling the myths or the questions or the wrong information about reverse mortgages. No, the bank or the government does not own your home. No, it's not a last resort, a last-ditch effort to keep somebody in the home. The truth of the matter is the math is telling us today that a reverse mortgage is much more beneficial earlier in retirement. The earlier you take out a reverse mortgage in retirement, the probability of your money lasting longer in retirement increases exponentially. Okay, so that's an important factor to look into. If you're concerned about longevity, you're a homeowner over the age of 62, let's look at a reverse mortgage, because that could help your retirement portfolio last longer in retirement. Again, the number one concern out there is longevity. Well, let's talk about Social Security, right? Because that's something else we're all going to depend on, and we're all going to want, right, as we age in retirement. We're all very concerned what they're going to do with Social Security as the years go on. I'm a believer that, it will continue, but yeah, there will be changes to it, like I'd mentioned in the previous episode. But let's do it right? Because, you may not necessarily have a second opportunity to change those decisions, and they could be monumental decisions. My brother and I, we have the conversation all the time, is what's better? Do you wait till 70? And maximize Social Security? Do the math. Do we outlive the money? Do we short ourselves? Or do we take it out as soon as possible? Well, that depends on you. That depends on your situation. That depends on your spouse and your health and where you want to live, what you want to do, and how you want to spend your money and what money you have in the bank currently. Are you still working? right? There was a guy. They had an example at this class. A gentleman was 75 years old, had a ton of money, was still working. He says, "Yeah, no, I didn't take out Social Security. I didn't need it." Well, how silly was that? What he could have done with that money because he didn't need it. What he could have done with that money. Maybe pay and supplement an insurance policy for the long term for his children, for his grandchildren, right? Maybe he could have used that money, for something else, for his family, right? And not necessarily think of it as, I don't need it, I'm not going to use it, right? That was kind of silly on his part. But, these are different. That's the reason why you need to talk to somebody on how Social Security should be structured and when you should take it out. Because ideally, I know for me, for example, I'd be very concerned when I'm taking my Social Security out that my wife is taken care of, that she gets the maximum amount of money with my Social Security. God forbid I pass away first. My goal, ideally, is to wait till 70, if I can, God willing. I'm relatively healthy. And listen, if I live into my late 80s, I think that's the math, then I beat the system, right? Then I'm ahead of the game. If I die sooner than that, right, in my 70s or early 80s, well then, yeah, I guess the federal government keeps some of that money. But here's the part we're forgetting. If my wife outlives me, then she will maximize that Social Security. And that's the benefit that inside, that's what I'm looking to achieve, is how can I protect and preserve the funds that she will need, right, if I were to pass away first. Right. In most scenarios, listen, it's not a secret. Most men do pass away before their wives. And it's important that we structure our retirement plans and we structure it in a way that for either spouse, because one spouse will eventually pass away before the other, right, that other spouse is set up to live where they want to live, age in place, maintain financial dependence, and be able to live a life, without that other spouse. As heartbreaking as that is, right, because now it's emotional, but there's also a financial aspect to it too, right? You still have to be able to live your life, and, you may have to live it alone, but hopefully you have family around you, children and grandchildren and friends and neighbors and siblings that can support you during that time of loss. But at the end of the day, at the end of the month, you still have bills to pay. Right, so to feed yourself, pay utilities, pay the car payments. Maybe there's a mortgage, maybe there's not. You got to pay your taxes and insurance. So all this stuff comes into play when you're talking about planning and change. Right, that's the whole point of this radio show, is the fact that during the course of our lives, at any stage of our lives, like I mentioned before, newlyweds. My daughter got married last week. What are their plans, and what do they plan on doing in the near future when they have children? Right now, they're living in a nice apartment in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. What happens when they have children? Can they afford the schooling in Manhattan? I heard the schooling in Manhattan is insane. It's harder to get into a kindergarten school in Manhattan than it is to get into a college university, right? So at some point in time, they will have to look at housing, either in Westchester or Long Island, and how they're going to pay for that and how they're going to afford that. Later on in life, in their 30s and 40s, when their children are growing up and maybe they're outgrowing that home and they have to relocate, right, in their 30s and 40s, right? And now what happens when their children start talking about college and moving out? And now we're talking about relocation. And now possibly in their 60s and 70s, retirement. So at all these different stages of life, there's all these different changes that are occurring. And we always need to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we're making the most optimal decisions to protect and preserve what we have and what we want for our futures. And even for me, for example, my wife and I, we're in our, I'm not going to tell you how old my wife is, but I am 61, and we're having the conversation about, when do we apply and optimize Social Security? What do we do with this big house on Long Island in Suffolk County with the taxes and the backyard and the 2 stories and the bedrooms and the bathrooms? Do we relocate? Where do we relocate to? Do we stay on Long Island? Do we stay in New York? Do we go to a state that maybe is more tax friendly? Right? We're not going to pay state income tax. It's all these different things that are going on. Right? How do we support our children and grandchildren in need? Or in happy times, maybe you want to spend a chunk of money and go on vacation with the kids and the grandkids. These are all life decisions that we need to figure out when, where, and how we want to do it, and make sure we have the resources to do it, and make sure we have the resources to do it and not pay Uncle Sam, right? Because we want to optimize our money and make sure we're using it the best way we can and not drawing money down from a fund that can be taxed, and possibly somewhere else that we can use funds that are not reportable to Uncle Sam, a.k.a. home equity, right? Because there we go. I always got to go back to that. Tim Kennedy, your certified reverse mortgage professional. Any questions, concerns? If there's something today that piqued your interest, give me a call, 516-729-6040, 516-729-6040. If you want to meet or reach Neil Himmelstein at the Main Street Planning Group, give him a call at 631-647-4694. And don't forget to catch Neil on Fridays, 3 p.m., the Main Street Code Financial Success. Hey, everybody had a great week. I hope you enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. God bless America, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.